Alright, how's it going, people of the world? What is up? My name's Bert. I don't know if you guys have ever seen my tutorials before, so I'm just going to introduce myself as if you didn't. I'm a 3D artist and I like to make tutorials. I also love getting caught in the rain and all that good stuff. But I'm not here to talk about that. Today we are going to be making a bar stool. So I was at a bar and I saw a stool and I took a picture. So now we're gonna make it. Just to do the quick plug, I guess, I went to Finnegan's Pub, which is in Hudson, Massachusetts. I'm not sure where everyone is located, but that is my location of choice. Yeah, so right now I'm just doing the whole project thing. I'm just accepting that bad boy. Then we're gonna go here to File, Save Scene, and then it'll actually we have to set it. So let me set the project. It'll set it to bar stool there. Set. And then we'll go to File, Save Scene. And then now we'll go into Scenes and save this as Stool. And then we'll save as, continue. And then what we're going to do is now we're going to import our reference image, which is an image that I took. It was a beautiful image. And we're going to bring that in as our reference. So it's very large. Let's move this back. That's what she said. And then we're going to put this in here, layers. We're going to call this stool ref. Change that to red. And then now that's referenced. Now I can't affect the reference there. So basically I noticed here on the reference it has like those little gummies there. I just like the general shape of this stool here, and I like the material here, so it's going to be an interesting stool to make. So let's start off with the easy stuff. Let's make one of these here, and then we can move on and duplicate those over. So first things first, I'm going to create a cylinder, and I'm going to delete all the faces except for the middle ones. So when you get rid of that, you know, bottom and top is empty completely. So let's go ahead and I'm going to scale this down a little bit, so something like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mimic the initial shape of this here. So it goes up, turns to the left a little bit, then goes up, and then curls in. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to use a curve. So I'm going to go to Curve Tools and then use a CV Curve tool. So what that'll do is it'll allow me to create that shape without actually having to model it all out like a schmuck. So there you go. I'm going to do this there, and then I will then start curving outwards. Okay. Now we're going to move our way up. And then now we could kind of start doing that. So as soon as we have that curved, you notice it's right down the middle. So I'm going to hit Q on my keyboard, and that's just another hotkey there. So all your hotkeys here are Q, W, E, R. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select this outermost edge, and I'm going to shift drag select this curve. And then I'm going to just do a good old extrude. So as soon as you extrude, it's going to snap itself to the center of that curve, and nothing's going to happen until you start adding subdivision. So you see it starts kind of shaping and forming its way into that shape. And notice also it's giving me this weird kind of like flatness going on. I'm not really sure what's going on. So what I'm going to do is, let me go ahead and delete this shape. And what's cool is that we could reuse this curve. So let's say now, instead of doing that, I grab one of these cylinders. Let's say I make it small. And I'm going to now change it from 1 to 0 here on the subdivision caps. And what we'll do is, instead of doing it with the edges, we'll do it with the face. So we'll just select that face, drag select that, and then we'll do the Control E to extrude. Notice it's a lot nicer to us. Notice how it keeps the shape. I'm not really sure, I'm not entirely sure onto why it acts up like that with edges, but I just do know that it gives me trouble sometimes. So let's change this to 35, and then now we can go ahead and go into object mode, select this bad boy, and then here in my custom shelf I have the delete history, freeze, transform, center, pivot that I will click 3 times. And then now I can select this and then shift control, shift deselect everything, and then now you could just delete the curve. And if you don't like doing that whole shift deselect to inverse the selection, you could just grab that curve and delete it. So now we have this cylindrical kind of like stool like shape that we can work with and do a lot of things with now. So yeah, let's just go ahead and create a layer from selected, and we'll call this stool leg, and we'll just kind of save it there for now and just work on other things. So let's keep that in mind. I wanna just look at this a little bit more and notice the inside circle and the outside circle are like one's in the inside, one's on the outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out that circle first so I know where to start placing those legs. So let's go ahead. This is going to be super easy. This is going to be the easiest thing we've ever done. We're going to select this shape up here. We're going to go on polytorus, and we are going to then adjust the section radius. So that'll make it thin, right? Thin enough where I need it. So somewhere like there. And I actually take that back, maybe a little smaller. There we go, something like that. Now what we could do is raise the subdivisions axis, and we're not going to go too crazy, because remember, this probably, like if this were in a game, you know, you're going to go too crazy, but we can always optimize after. So let's go ahead and make this bigger again. So this is going to serve as our outermost ring. So again, I think it's a little too large, and that's what she said again, so we're going to have to go ahead and do that right there. So that will be okay for the purposes that we're going for. Okay, so that's just our placeholder. That's what we're going to use for now. So then let's bring back our stool leg. So then now what we could do is use that ring to start placing this leg that we created. So let's go ahead and scale that down, and we can now start moving things into place and looking at the whole thing and determining, okay, is this, you know, accurate? Is this going to stand up as a stool? Is this large enough? Is this, you know, thick enough? All that good stuff. So we can start, you know, messing with the shape, proportions. So now I'm going to start putting it there. Okay, so yeah, this looks alright. Let me see. I'm going to look at it from the side view. So yeah, clearly, you know, this part you might want to have it a little lower like that. And then now what's cool is that we have this here to, like, we're able to adjust this. So I could even go into vertex mode, select this right here, and hit soft select. And then I could just start doing like manual adjustments to things if I wanted to like grab it that way. But I feel like that's going to be too organic for the thing that we're going for. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this like a bit manually. So what I'll do is then select this edge here, and I'll start kind of like, I'll do soft select, but it's going to be light, and I'll start kind of pulling this way, and then I'll start kind of rotating it like that. And what that'll do is it'll give me a little bit of freedom in where we're going with this shape before we start turning the whole thing. So now we can then come here and rotate that bad boy. Hit Q on our keyboard. We're going to rotate this one here, and then we're going to move it over a little. So now I'm going to come here in face mode and delete all these faces right here. And I'm going to grab this and hit R on my keyboard and just kind of scale downward like that. So that just makes it so it's nice and symmetrical. And then I'm going to grab all these. I'm going to move them over a little bit. Probably grab these as well. Move it over a little like that. Now I'm going to come here into edge mode, and I'm going to select these, and then I'm just going to go ahead and shift right click and then just bridge them. So that'll give me like a nice straight a straight kind of stool-like quality and still gives it its curviness there. So then here, you know, if it gets a little funky, it's totally fine, because what we could do is now just soften the edges real quick. If it gives you these weird artifacts, remember, we're not going to have that face there, so you can just delete that and delete that. And don't worry about them now. So now what we could do is then grab this and then use self-select to grab it, because this is going to be affecting geometry as a whole, like everything around it. So now you can kind of start, it's just slight, like little slight kind of, you can even scale that a little bit if you want. Yeah. So see how it looks a little bit better just by like slightly moving it. Now we've created now this basis of where we're going to be putting the stool. So one thing I want you to keep in mind is look at the UVs of this, right? It's already pretty laid out, but yeah, so I'm going to just unfold that and make sure it's cut before I duplicate it. So now we know that this is cut and UV'd. So we're going to go ahead and Control D to duplicate it and just move it up so that we can calculate like where the inside kind of stool circle is going to be. So now we can scale this in until it reaches the inside of that stool by hitting R. So yeah, now we got that outer ring, we got that second ring that's going to serve as the inside support. This is the outside support. We're going to go ahead and move this back a little bit like that. And then we're going to scale this up a tiny bit more like that. Okay. So we have those two now, and we're ready to start duplicating this guy over. One thing we could do a number of things here, is we could move the pivot to the center, right? So we could kind of do that, hit insert, and then hit X. I'm sorry, it's not X, it's V, I believe, right? So it's insert and then V, and you can start moving that there to the center. We could even hit X to snap it to the grid. So if we hit insert again and then X, you could snap it along the grid. Yes, X. It's a little finicky. I never really liked doing it this way. I'm more of like a duplicate special kind of guy, but just because of this tutorial, I think I'm running out of time. So Control D, and we can hold down J while you rotate, and it should snap, but I think I have that turned off right now, so we'll just do it manually. 90. Okay. So now we have those two. We can select them both, hit Q on my keyboard, and then we're going to combine them. So then now we could do that Shift Control D thing, and then hold down J while we rotate. If that doesn't snap, there is a way to do it, and I'm blanking out on it. But we can figure it out. Alright. Yeah, so look how... Okay, that didn't end up working out very well, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate that real quick. Oops. I meant to delete this one. So I'm going to... See how now it's at the center there? It's because I deleted the history, froze the transforms, all that good stuff. So if you don't do that and you keep it there at the center, what you could do is you could do Control D to duplicate and then just -1 on the scale X. So it'll just kind of automatically do that for you. So now this is a lot easier because now that they're combined, we could just do this here and it'll keep it in the center. So now we just Control D to duplicate, and then I'm going to see what's going on with the rotate. So if we double click here, let's just reset the tool, and then we'll hold down J before we rotate and see it's snapping. So that's how you do it. So yeah, there we go. So we got that section all set. We got these two all set. One thing I forgot to do is I forgot to UV cut it before duplicating it, but it's gonna be okay, because what we want is we don't want them to be stacked really, because this is a really small prop and it would actually serve us better if we didn't have it stacked. So that way, if I want to add like fingerprint detail to this and like footprint detail to that, then you could have it not show on this one as well, because if it's stacked, then it's going to show on the other shell. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the bottom part here, right there. So what we could do is we can now select, get out of soft select by hitting B, and then we could Control E to extrude this, like that. And we can now grab this edge and move it down like this. We could also bevel that, which gives it that little kind of effect there. And yeah, so like I said, we're going to go ahead and just delete these and just do the same steps we did earlier, so that way we could finish one and not have to really worry about it after. So yeah, we're going to just kind of work with one, make the bolts like kind of pierce in, then we'll merge everything and start duplicating things over. I guess it was good that I duplicated over just to kind of see if it was going to fit and work before doing it, so that's a good way of thinking of it. But yeah, in this case you want to just build it first and then we go into the other thing. So let's look at this real quick. So ooh, some weird stuff going on. Okay, so here I actually have the image, so let me load that up. There it is. Yeah, so here you see we have this like bolt kind of thing. It's like a circular. So the detail, you see that little extrusion? We could do that in Substance Painter. So really, again, this is a really simple prop, and we could just do it simply. We don't have to get too crazy. So let's append a cube, and we can go ahead and do a mesh smooth on it, and then divisions we'll change it to 2, and then we could go ahead and do a quick planar on it, and then use that edge to cut it, and then in UV shell mode just select that half. I don't know, I'm weird, I do it that way, don't yell at me. So then now we have this here, which we could use as a bolt or like a nut or whatever. So let's go ahead and scale that down, and maybe let's scale it inward a little bit because they're not that round, right? And another thing we could do is, just for the sake of depth, like just to have it, just push that vert in a little bit, right? Like just push it in. It's not gonna hurt, it's not gonna kill anybody, but look, it's just not doing anything but just kind of faking a little bit because we're gonna add normal information to that and all that stuff. So let's just keep it like that. So here, notice we have the bolt now. We have this kind of nut there, and it's already UV'd. So what we could do is, it's planted there. We're going to go ahead and Control D to duplicate it, right? And we're going to position that into place. And since I don't like guessing, we can come here and actually place it, right? So now we have, those nuts here. 1, 2 nuts, and they're actually, those are the ones that are okay being stacked, right? So that's stacked. Then we have this guy. So this one, I'm just selecting it, right? This one isn't UV'd properly yet. So let's go ahead and UV this. I'm gonna do a quick planar. Okay. Once you add a planar, it's gonna project, okay? And it's gonna make a cut wherever there's holes there. So there's 2 holes there. What we want to do is we want to have a cut where it won't be seen, right? So we could have it right under where the person would be sitting. I'm going to shut off the reference for now because it gets in the way, so now we're good. So notice I have this one cut that goes all the way down, so if I just cut right there, that should be enough, right? So we're good. Now this one still needs to be cut and unfolded, these two rather, but they're already cut and unfolded because the reason I did a planar in the beginning is because not only did I want to cut that cube that I smoothed out in half, but I also wanted to make it efficient for me so that it would be UV'd prior to me duplicating it and pushing it over. So I was thinking about that prior to actually making it. So just keep that in mind. You want to do that as well. So let's select this here, and I'm going to bring over my UV view. That sounds funny. U-view. The UV editor. So basically you're going to drag select the shell, and now you're just going to unfold. So basically what you're doing here is you're unfolding the mesh that you created here. And we're having a little bit of an issue. One issue that we're having is that we have to redo the planar real quick. So let's do a planar. That was cylindrical. Planar. Now let's go ahead and select this outer edge. Select all the way down, and then select this edge here. And then we're going to cut. Okay? Now that that's cut, select the shell, unfold, and it's giving me this weirdness here. I'm not really sure what that is. So let's do some investigating, shall we? It's telling me here. It's like not wanting to unfold properly. So let's see what it is. I'm wondering if what happens if I just delete the history real quick? Let's do that. Do history, freeze, transform, center, pivot. Let's try this again. Okay, we're gonna try this one more time. We're gonna do a planar. How about we do a planar along a different axis? So instead of the Z, let's try the X-axis. So it'll lay it out on the UV editor a lot like nicer. Notice here it's like a lot nicer to see it there laid out. Yeah, let's go ahead and let's do a different thing here. Let's select this here. It could be also that it's inside of this group here. Just get rid of that. So this is the shape that we're dealing with. Again, the big three, we'll just delete history, freeze, transform, center, pivot. And let's go ahead and select that outer edge, that edge there at the bottom, and then we'll reselect that. Let's go ahead and do a UV, cut UV edges. So now, if all goes well, we can now select this shell and unfold, and there we go. So remember guys, delete your history, and girls. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now my scale doesn't want to work. So let's go ahead and double click on this. We'll just reset the scale settings. Still doesn't want to work. It's acting really weird. If that ever happens, you go to options, reset all UV tool panel settings there. That should work. There you go. So when in doubt, basically, if my main advice is if it doesn't work, start over. But if you have troubles like what I just had, you have to really know the way Maya communicates. Maya works the way Maya want to works, and you can't really mess with it too much. But I will tell you one thing: it's gonna serve you better in the long run if you just pre-plan for these things. So just delete your history, do all these things. So watch, I'm shift selecting these. They're stacked. These are stacked. See? Now I'm gonna mesh combine them. This one here is positioned and ready to go, and this one's also positioned and ready to go. So why not mesh combine them? Now is a good time to duplicate them over. Why? Because we already UV cut this guy, and this guy. They're together. They're together for life. Well, I don't know, until I separate them. So now they're together. So now I want to delete the history, freeze, transform, center, pivot, right? I want to hit insert, and I want to hit X, so that I could snap it to the, oh wait, you know what's going to happen though? I didn't hit insert, so it's just going to move the whole thing. So yeah, hit X and just kind of snap that bad boy. There we go. It's on the grid. Now, if we hit W, it's all centered in the grid. I can hit Control D and then do -1 on scale X. Okay? So that didn't seem to do anything. I don't know why. But let's go ahead and hold down J and just snap it around. There it is. Okay? We got this and this. Now, if we take a look at the UVs, okay, check it out. They're stacked. Okay? If I grab one shell and just click and hit W, it's stacked. If I drag select, it moves both. So just keep that in mind. I did something really bad. I haven't saved yet, so let me go ahead and save. And let's do this. Select them both, mesh combine, and let's do a Control D to duplicate, and we'll just go ahead and hit E, hold down J, and then snap it so it all fits nicely. So already we're getting some really nice results, right? We got the nuts stacked. We got these guys stacked. Now there are some things you don't want stacked. Like I said, these you might not want stacked, and these you might not want stacked, just for the sake of asymmetry, right? Like if you're trying to make your stool look like really, really good and like have some details here, not there, you don't really want all these things stacked. So what I'm going to leave stacked is I'm going to leave the nuts and bolts unstacked. Sorry, I'm going to leave the nuts and bolts stacked, and then everything else is going to be unstacked. So let me drag select everything. Watch, I'm drag selecting everything. And I'm just going to shift deselect the nuts and bolts. Just real quick, just go around, deselect them. Okay? Nice and easy. We're going to mesh combine them. Delete history, freeze transform, center pivot. Now we're going back to the UV editor, and all of these are stacked, even these here. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag select this, and we're going to do an unfold. Okay? Holy crap. More issues than I ever thought. Control Z that before all these issues started. Alright. What was that? Let's see. So we have these. Maybe these we can move manually, right? So we could just grab this, move it over. So no longer stacked, right? We're just kind of moving them over. It's fine to do it this way. Now we know these are okay, so let's not mess with those. We know that these are okay. Now it's these here, right? These haven't been cut or unfolded or anything. So let's go ahead and just do a quick planer, but we're going to do this along the y-axis. So then we're going to just select this inner edge there, and then we're going to cut. And then we're going to select one other edge, and let's do this one here so that it hides the seam. We're hiding the seam, and then we're going to cut. So now we can select this one, and if we select that shell, we can unfold. And if it's all curved like this, if it's all weird, there's a number of ways that you can fix this. There are some cool ways of doing it that I've seen online that like are pretty new to me, to be honest. But it gets really weird dealing with cylindrical objects like this. So one thing I like to do is I like to just replanar this real quick, and then I like to basically select this edge and then this edge out here or something, and then you could actually, that's going to cause too many seams, so we could just cut one there, cut another one here, and then go all the way around. So we could just cut, and then now if we unfold, hopefully it'll unfold nicely, but we can unfold this one and then this one. And like I said, these don't have to be straight or anything. It's not like I'm adding text to this or anything. So honestly, it should be fine. And also, if you're wondering what this button is, it's a code that I found online that basically stacks and orients your shells. So, oh, it doesn't seem to be working right now. That's weird. Yeah, it might be broken. Haven't used it in a while, but it's okay. We have the default ones here. So go to range and layout, and then we just do the good old normal layout here. Just layout. So now we can just kind of rotate them a little bit, push them like into place. Here's fine. Here's good. So now, since this one's already cut, I mean, it wouldn't really hurt to cut this real quick, right? So we could just cut it. We know how to do it now, so we can just go here, make a cut there, and then make a cut there. So we could cut it, select that in the UV editor, drag select, and then we could just unfold now. So now that we have these two, we get this and then this, now we could go ahead and do a layout. Start moving them over. Okay, we're drag selecting both, and then we're going to just scale them, push them off to the side. Those look pretty good to me now. Let's go ahead and drag select everything, do a good old delete history on everything. So if these things happen here, you might want to be careful with this, right? Because this stuff really screws me up sometimes. Like, you know, I just kind of get like middle mouse click them out of there, and it kind of makes it easier than to deal with that crap. So yeah, everything here seems pretty good. We got, oh yeah, so remember we were talking about how like saving geometry and optimizing, right? So the bottom of these don't need geometry, right? So like they're going to be planted on the ground. So another thing, optimization, like that's a big thing, right? This doesn't look pretty high poly, but let's say this was like, you know, freaking super dense. Let's say this was extremely dense. Look at this. You know, that's not good for games. You don't want that, you know? And this looks almost exactly like that. So you want to keep your topology to look pretty clean as opposed to super smooth and high poly. So yeah, um, what's next? Let's bring back our reference, huh? Alright, so we're done with those nuts and bolts. We put them on these sections here that are being supported. We have the little gummies. And I think all that's left is this stool here, this little kind of stool thing. So what we could do is we could just create a cylinder, and we are going to do some adjustments to this thing before we get going. So we're going to scale it, position it, and just get its initial shape. So that's okay, I guess, for now. Just trying to take a look at my model here. Oh yeah, so we're gonna up the subdivision axis so it's nice and smooth. One thing you want to keep in mind is that when you're working with stuff like this, that's gonna have, you know, some sort of organic features to it, you want to keep those organic features in mind before doing any serious modeling. So we're going to add subdivisions prior to doing anything, because I know where we're going to need subdivisions, right? So here there's like some width to it. So I know already, just as a 3D modeler, that I need to come here into my insert edge loop tool, okay? And I have to go to multiple and then maybe switch this to like 6, all right? So now I switch that to 6, and then what happens, I click here and it gives me 6 subdivisions. So now I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So then here is where I would want to do my adjusting, right? So if you think about it, right, I do softly select that, and then we could start kind of getting that stool-like effect. But we're not doing that yet. We're getting just the initial, we're just getting what we need there first. Now we could bevel. We're going to bevel the top, and we're going to adjust that like this. And you'll see why I'm doing that in a moment. So I'm going to now select that entire face, and then I'm going to extrude that outward like this. And I'm then going to select these two and then bevel those. Okay? So now I got that kind of like, whatever you want to call it, that seam or whatever. And just for the sake of, you know, making sure it looks okay at a distance, we're going to do the same thing we did at the top, except this one's going to be a little less prominent. So it might just be something like that, and then we could just something like that, you know, because think about it, like this is at the bottom of the stool, so you're not really seeing that much. You don't have to have those extrusions there. So now in face mode, if we hit B, now we want to make it so that it affects a good amount of the geometry there, so it all kind of scales out together. You see that? How it's all scaling out together. Now, it looks okay, but it doesn't look, it's not quite there yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this outer edge here, and we're going to maybe we're going to select that and just kind of scale it in a little more. Just looked a little off. So at a distance, our stool looks okay, but one thing I'm noticing is that this looks a little too tall. So we got to maybe scale that down a little bit, right? Push it in. So yeah, that looks cool. All right. So I'm not sure how long I've been doing this tutorial for, but I'm going to just make sure everything is cut, unfolded, and then on the next one we could go ahead and texture it in Substance Painter. Then I can show you how to bring it into Unreal Engine to assemble it and render it so you can make like a simple prop. Before we get out of here though, I want to do a couple things to adjust this thing. So I'm going to bevel, and I'm going to grab this edge, and I'm going to just start scaling it in. Right? So now another thing, I'm going to shift right click and then bevel that edge again, select that edge, and then start bringing it in. Okay, we're going to do that a little bit, we're going to do that throughout. So we're going to select this, bevel, select this, and then bevel. So this I'm going to bring in to here. This I'll bring up to like there. And just keep doing that till we get to something like here, like right there. There we go. Some even distribution there. And then we can now grab this, soft select it, kind of bring it up. grab that center vertex, do soft select again. And now what we're going to do is add little bits of irregularity and randomness to the stool, the cushion especially, and just kind of, you see that little bits of like, just little things, it's the details, okay? Nothing crazy. Look, we're not doing anything crazy, just little bits of irregularity. And I still feel like this could be a bit more rounded out, so we could just kind of pop that out. See? Now that looks like a stool I want to sit on, right? So let's take a look at this, and we're going to go to custom, history, freeze, transform, center, fitbit, all that good stuff. You know about it. Now we're going to select the top like this, and let's get soft select out of here. So look, soft select gets kind of crazy when you have it on, so let's just get it off. And this here will be unfolded. That, notice how the unfold gets a little funky. Fear not, because we could just do a cylindrical projection and we can unfold it. So now it's a lot more straight and like a little bit neater. Same thing with the bottom, we could go ahead and unfold that. Now we got these things to work with. We could do a UV layout now. These things, since they're like a more prominent detailed part, the bottom one isn't too detailed, so we can make it smaller. And this one's a lot more detailed, so we want to make it larger. Bring it like right there. This one right here, we want to take a look at the checkers here because we want them to match the top. So what we want to do is make sure that they're scaled and rotated to match the top. So that looks okay to me. One thing I do notice though is that there's not really much room for this shell as is. So we have to do some compromising here and some scaling like that. So then that means I'll just have to adjust this to be similar. Alright, that's pretty good. That's neat. So now we're going to move this bottom one here and just kind of put it off to the side there. So now, okay, now what we're doing is this really interesting thing, right? So what we're doing is we're selecting the top thing, the cushion rather, for lack of a better word, and we are now going to start kind of merging things together and positioning things together. So we're going to just select those legs, we're going to mesh combine them. We're going to select the shells and we're going to just move them over to the next island, just for a second. Now we're going to put it in object mode, and we're going to select this again, and now we're going to do the good old shift, deselect everything that, so everything gets inverse selected now. So these are the ones that are staying stacked. We already established that, right? We established that these are going to be stacked, so let's just put them in the tiny in the corner there, right? These are not going to be stacked. These are not. So let's go ahead and select these and put them here or something. Here's fine. Okay? Now these are positioned and ready to go. So now we're going to select this, inverse select that, and then we're going to mesh combine those. Okay? Those are mesh combined. These are mesh combined. So let's go shift click them now. Since they're mesh combined, you'll see all of them and be able to manipulate all of them. So now you could go ahead and position these. Now I'm holding down J to snap because you could do all the same rotational and movement things in the UV editor as you can do in the scene view. So now we got these going. Okay, we got this and we got this. So now we're selecting those. Now we got that last one here. So notice we have a lot of room to pack things. A lot of room. And this is a very simple stool, so I'm going to try to keep it all on one texture sheet because it's easier. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to scale this up significantly because we have the room for it. We're going to do manual stacking and positioning. So now the reason I'm in my full UV view is because I know that everything in the scene has been UV'd. Everything is all set. So we're going to select this guy. We're going to scale it up and move it like right there. We're going to grab this one, move it here, this one. So remember, when I click on once, it's going to not select it. You have to drag select because they're stacked. This here can be put there. This can be put right here. Alright, so now this looks all set and ready to go. You may be asking, is this game ready? Well, I would say sort of, right? Because right here, there's a number of things you could do, right? You could do this. Delete edge or whatever. Go all the way around. So yeah, I mean, totally not completely game ready, but for the sake of this tutorial, I wasn't going to go ahead and optimize everything. Everyone should know about optimization by now. But if this were going in a game engine, nowadays in game engines, the thing that is most taxing is the textures. So yes, of course, you want to scale that down, of course, right? So you could do stuff like this, where you're not necessarily affecting the silhouette of the mesh. You're just kind of getting rid of unnecessary edges and topology that you don't need. So there we go. That is the basics of optimization for you. These look okay. I'm not going to bother. This looks alright. I'm not going to bother. Yeah, so I think we're pretty much all set, and I will see you guys on the next tutorial where we will be texturing this and bringing it into an engine. Thank you for watching, and I hope you guys have a good one. Bye-bye.